Good morning, my organized friends, and welcome to another episode of Simply Living Smart. I'm so happy to have you with me today, and it's been so exciting all week to get emails from you on all of your before piles, and I'm excited to see the after piles as well, all the organization that's happened once you're finished. So this is the most fun part of what I do, is to explore what you're doing in your places and spaces and see how you're applying the things that we learn here. For those of you who are new to Simply Living Smart, welcome. It's so nice to have you here. And if you've missed any of our organization challenges weeks, you can go back to them and watch those episodes. They launched on July 4th. July 4th was our Weekend Warrior Basket episode. You'll find that under the videos tab at Simply Living Smart on Facebook. And the Weekend Warrior Basket was great because it really kind of launched us into how to create an organized plan for all of our daily to-dos, all of our tasks, all of our filing, everything that happens day in, day out. So that was kind of setting the foundation for organization. Last week, we talked about bedrooms, bathrooms, and closets, and we really dug in and learned principles of decluttering and also how to organize those spaces and what to do with all of the abundance that we have that we're not using that we could perhaps donate or get rid of. So I hope that if you're new and you want to start from the very beginning, you will review those episodes that we recorded at Simply Living Smart. So welcome to week 3. This week we're going to be focusing on family spaces. So things like laundry rooms, family rooms, and home offices. So I'm going to try to get this done in 45 minutes. We're going to jump right in, and I hope you're really excited to make some progress here. Now, if you remember the approach that I suggested as you conquer any organization project, I use the acronym CALM, C-A-L-M. The C stands for create a plan. Envision what you want to have happen in those specific rooms. And the things that you don't want to be happening, you can make the switch. You can teach your family to make the switch if you need to. But imagine how you feel when you're in that space and how things are going to be organized and how you function in that space. That's the number one thing about creating a plan. The A stands for approach it in sections. It's so nice whether you're taking 1 week to organize a room or 2 weeks or even a month. Really approach it mindfully and decide what will make you most comfortable in that space. L stands for lighten up and let go. There are so many things that can clutter our spaces and our places. But as we learn to lighten up, declutter, get rid of the things that aren't serving us, we're going to feel so much better, and we're going to be more efficient with our time. This I know. The M is for manage, and manage it simply. That's the key. If we can learn to manage our places and spaces in a way that's efficient and simple so that you make the most of your day and the most of your time, and you're not having to fuss with cleaning or organizing or decluttering all the time, you're going to feel so much better, so much lighter, and you're just going to be simply living smarter. So today we're going to talk about the home office first. That's where we're going to dive in. And I recognize that everyone's office is going to be different. So I'm not going to give you super specific guidelines, but just some ideas. And this is my intention throughout all of this training, is to share things that I've worked with clients on that have been beneficial to them. And then you take what you can use and let the rest go. So in homes, I often find that we have mini offices. These can be maybe found in our kitchens or close to our pantry space. And then there's also the main home office where you do business, where you do your filing and all of that. So we're going to divide that space. So let's talk first about the home office. This is the one that's probably in its own separate room where you can close the door and have your peace. So to me, the home office is sort of like a bedroom. I want to feel calm there. I want to feel like I can get work done. I just want to feel at ease. And so we want to go through these places and make sure that first of all, we declutter them. No toys, no food, things like that. Just office things, tasks that happen there. So in the main office, I like to divide it into 3 areas: the desk area, the filing area, and the rest. So let's talk about the desk. Now, as I've said before, I'm a real minimalist, so I like to have very clean spaces. So I would encourage you to just clear off that whole space on your desk for tasks so that you're not, you don't get disorganized or you don't get distracted. You can have simple things like a nice lamp, maybe some personal photos, a quick pad of paper for thoughts, your laptop or your desk computer, and a stand-up tray. I always love to have a stand-up tray with manila folders for your current projects. Again, my vantage point is an empty nest mother who has a business and who has other, hobbies that she likes to do. So I have my things in manila folders. So it really helps to organize those activities and have them right at my fingertips. It's so much easier when you have your weekend warrior basket ready to go, because this, you'll see, really kind of ties into our home office. This is where you put the tasks that need to be done, your to-do list. It also manages your everyday filing that comes in and out, so that by the time you come to your weekend and you have to put those filing papers away, you have somewhere to put them. So again, I would really encourage you, if you haven't already, to study the Weekend Warrior Basket episode, because this is going to get you primed to really organize your home office. In the drawers, if you have a desk with drawers, I always like to have just the essentials: highlighters, pens and pencils, paper clips, labeler, scissors, stapler, stamps and envelopes, if we even use those anymore. Everything seems to be in the cloud and online. But nice stationery, blank checks if you need them. So all of those simple supplies. And again, we talked about last week how to organize things in, containers of their own. So it really helps to organize that space. Under the desk, I always like to have kind of an extra supply of things, whether that's ink cartridges or envelopes or extra printing paper, things like that. Because again, once you start a project, you just hate to be interrupted. So I'm a big fan of having a backup supply in any room that you have, in any of the things that you use. So be mindful of that. I also like to have in the office just a basket or a nice container where I can put leisure reading. So whether I'm working on a book or whether I have my favorite magazines or things that I want to review in my spare time, that's a great place to put it. That way, if you have to run kids to, lessons, or you're waiting in a car or whatever, you can grab something out of that leisure basket. You always know where it is, and you can have that in your car. So I like to have that as a quick grab. In my office, I always like to also have a wall calendar. So again, your office could be in different places in the home. I like to have my wall calendar because I have a big walk-in pantry on the wall there, because I'm always looking at it. So I love the whiteboard because it can be switched out every month and it's easy to write on, and I don't have things cluttering my space or extra paper to fuss with. So I really like that. And you could also have maybe even some of those bulletin boards for either just you or different members of your family. I have found that having bulletin boards next to my next to my wall calendar is really helpful, because if I have invitations or things that happen to just be for that child, then I pin it on that little board, and it's really easy to keep track of. Then once that activity is done, or I'm finished with that piece of paper, in the garbage it goes. So I really, really like to think through, who do I need to manage? Is it children? Is it just myself or my husband? And how can I keep that everyday stuff top of mind? And sometimes it's just writing it on your wall calendar or having it on a bulletin board. Other things that you might want to have on that bulletin board are things like tickets to an event that you're going to, lists of books you want to read, appointment cards, special contacts, and even your emergency medical binder. Do you remember how we could put that just in a nice little manila folder and we can tack it right onto a bulletin board? And again, that episode, I believe, was the last week in June. We talked about an emergency medical binder and why it's important to have all of your medical information in one place so that you can access it in an emergency. So I would encourage you to review that episode as well if that's of interest to you. And there's a free download that comes with that. Okay. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about filing, and filing can also be just kind of overwhelming. I know that a lot of things now are in the cloud, so a lot of us don't have these big, huge file cabinets that we maybe used to have, but I still feel like it's important to have some of those paper files on hand. And so we're going to talk about 3 different filing boxes, and you can have that whether that's stackable, whatever system you like to have. Maybe keep note of these 3 ideas. Number 1, current projects. Number 2, a family file. And number 3, an archival file. So I'm going to run through all of those so that you understand what I mean by that and see if they apply to you as well. Current projects. These are projects that I know that I'm going to be working on within the next 3 months. Whether that's a bridal shower, whether it's a landscaping project, family vacation, all of those things I like to have in their own separate manila folder, and then I like to have them in their own file box so that anything that relates to those things, even if it comes in through the mail or even if I'm managing it in my weekend warrior basket, I know that everything is kind of in one place. I have my airline tickets, I have my, any notes from where we're going to go. So it's really helpful to keep those things organized. Then all I have to do is grab the manila folder, look through it, manage what I'm going to do, and then put it back again, okay? So I really like this, and it's worked for me very, very well. The second is the family. And in the family kind of file box, I like to have two sections. One is for personal, my own things, and one is for family, all of my family and what their things are. So in the personal file, I might put things like design ideas or recipes or articles I want to read or home projects I'm working on, maybe gift certificates or keepsakes, cards that my kids have written, pictures, or anything else that just interests you personally, I like to have in that personal file. In my family file, I like to have one folder for each family member. That way, anything that pertains to them is there. So things like birth certificates, immunization cards, those can be easily accessed there, social security numbers. There is one thing that I actually do that I've had for a long time, and it's called a family grab and go binder. I just have it all in a binder. And what I do is I actually, this is how I store it. I put their birth certificates. Each child has kind of a folder: birth certificate, immunization card, social security card. And then I even have one for our dog. I mean, everybody has a little space in here. So that might be something that you want to consider if you want that closer to your fingertips instead of inside like a hanging file. But anyway, the idea is the same. So just take into account that, as you have children, you're going to be, there are certain things that you need to file through. And I like to go in about twice a year and kind of sort through and get rid of the things that I don't need. So in the family folder, I also have different manila folders with categories such as contractors that I've used in case I need to call them again, or in case I want to refer them to one of my friends. I have things like insurance policies, so whether that's our car insurance policy, health insurance, life and homeowners policies. Car maintenance, that's another folder. If I've had work done or my tires rotated or any receipts, I have that in the family folder. I also have copies of the credit cards in case a wallet gets stolen. So I've taken one sheet of paper, I've put all of my credit cards or anything that is in my wallet, front and back, I've made copies, I've scanned those, and I have that in the folder. That way, if something goes lost or missing, I can immediately cancel them without having to remember what was in my wallet. So I think that's a great backup plan. I also like to keep things like bank statements, warranties and instructions, anything about your pets, and things like that. So that kind of anything that pertains to your family activities or your family records is a great thing to have in that family folder or that family box. And it's really super easy to access. The last file that I like to have is the archival file. This is probably one that you won't access, very often at all, but it's nice to have. Things like your investments, where do they live and who takes care of those? Your trusts, your wills, your mortgage papers, your attorneys, anything to do with your estate should be in that archival file. And I really love that because when I've had to access people or things very quickly, it's right there. That would, again, be another place to have your emergency medical binder, if that makes more sense to you, to have it in that file. Now, these files, you can see, will house the bulk of your paperwork in your home. So it's nice to have it in one place. We talked about the grab and go binder. I really imagine that's the easiest thing to do. And you could even have that in your mini office, perhaps in your kitchen or wherever your central hub is and that you have to access those things. I know that when my children were younger and I had them in school, there were so many times where I had to fill out their social security numbers or have their immunization cards. And instead of having to go through my files, I had just this binder and it was easy to get to. So there you go. I even like to have in each of the children's folders, I like to have their passport and any prescriptions that they have on a regular basis. So that's super helpful too. Now let's move a little bit to the home office, like the mini home office. And each of you, I think, can relate to this because every client that I've worked with has had what we call a junk drawer in the kitchen, right? That one drawer that's kind of the catch-all. Well, I love it when there's a junk drawer and then a cabinet below because that makes for the perfect home office, I feel. You can have all of those big things underneath, one file, even if that's your current projects or your weekend warrior basket or anything that's kind of bigger and bulkier, your labeler, things like that. And then the top junk drawer can really be, transformed into this beautiful place for all of your little tiny things. This is another place where I love to use empty shoebox lids or those little pencil caddies and just fill the entire drawer full so that there's no room for things slipping through the cracks. And again, you can use that poster putty below your little anything that you're using to organize those little boxes or cases, and they won't slip in the drawer. But it's so nice to have everything separated. So I like to have things like cards, greeting cards or index cards, sticky notes in one. I like to have one, of course, for writing utensils. Then I like to have another one for simple tools around the house, things like screwdriver, Phillips head, hooks and nails, pins, anything where I'd have to maybe hang a picture or maybe even if you have room for a hammer in there, that's a good idea too. So simple tools in the home that you might use that you don't want to run to the garage for every time. I also like to have 3M hooks in there because there are often times where I want to hang things. Again, I don't want to run to the garage and get those. So it's nice to have it on hand. I also like to have tapes and glues and stickers. Because this junk drawer, which is no longer a junk drawer, is in my kitchen and I do a lot of baking and I like to gift food, I also like to have a place where I can have pretty ribbons, paper, anything that would present well for a gift, wrap up my bread, do my goodies, whatever. So it's just right there when I need it. It's also a good idea to have some first aid supplies, things really basic. I mean, you don't have to have the big bandages, but things like just Band-Aids, some Neosporin, some tape, things for those quick emergencies, sometimes even some burn cream is a great idea. I also like to have there just a few extra batteries. There are always things around the house, and we're going to talk about this in a minute when we get to the laundry room. But having extra batteries on hand is so nice. Just think of all of the things in your home that get kind of scattered everywhere, right? And what happens when we find things on the floor that get scattered? We put it in the weekend warrior basket, right? That's always the answer, and then we manage it on the weekends. But if you can really think through what are the things that you are always using and then have them in that junk drawer, which is no longer a junk drawer, but an organized oasis, you're going to love it. You can also have things like phone chargers, computer chargers, again, your labeler, and I think I've pretty much covered it all. Those are the things that I would recommend and that I see work really well for clients in their kitchen. Okay, now I also have to say that when you're on a phone call, I'm kind of one of those people who gets a little, I can't be on long phone calls because I just don't have the bandwidth and I get kind of, anxious. And so what I do if I'm on a long phone call is I just open one of my drawers anywhere in my house, but that one seems to be the one that's used the most. So I'll go in there and organize it as I'm on the phone. And ta-da, it's beautifully clean and organized and I can get rid of all the clutter. I even have a place in there for loose change because I can't stand to see dimes and quarters on the floor or wherever. And so once that's full, I just put it in a jar and take care of that later. All right, so that kind of gave you an overview of the office, the home office, and the mini office space. Now let's talk about the laundry room. Let's tackle that for a minute. This, again, can be a real catch-all. There are so many things that end up in the laundry room because it's just the place that people dump things. So we're going to talk about the basics, and then I'd like to give you a few tips on what are some great things to store there and have you considered these items. Let's start with the most obvious thing, which is the hampers. I've always subscribed to having 3 hampers, one for whites, one for darks, and one for towels. And this has always worked. I've never changed it. It works really well. And that way, when my kids came up to, dump their laundry, they knew that there was a certain spot for everything. Now, I love the ones that are kind of tied together. There's a 3-section hamper, and they have kind of a lid or, something that goes over it so that it keeps it, from not smelling up your room if you have wet towels in there. Of course, an ironing board with ironing essentials, starch, bottle of water, some extra hangers. I like to have a hanging rod there if I'm not drying certain clothes and they need to be hung up. And then, of course, a trash can for everything that needs to be thrown away. Remember our upcycling little tip. And for those of you who, I know this is crazy, but I'll keep bringing it up because I know there are some of you who are like me and don't like to have fire starter or don't like to start your fire. So I take the lint from my dryer, stuff it in a toilet paper roll, and then when I'm done stuffing it and there's lint inside, I'll use it in the winter for fires, to build fires in our fireplace. And I love it because it's just an easy solution and I don't have to call my husband or my sons to start the fire for me. So there are always great upcycling ideas that we can use. Okay, so I always like to also have really great lighting in the laundry room. I think that sometimes if our laundry room is too dark, we just kind of feel like it's a hole and we don't want to be there. But have some nice lighting, have something that's beautiful and inspiring, even some great artwork on the wall. A simple cleaning kit, and for any of you who want this cheat sheet, you can download it and laminate it. It's a one-pager. Just drop me a quick note and I'll email it to you. But I like to have a small cleaning kit because whether it's hairspray for ink spots, small rags and toothbrushes for gentle scrubbing, stain removers, bleach pens, laminated stain guide, that way, if your family has to clean something, I have a son who is always asking me, how do I get sweat spots out of my t-shirts, or how do I get, yellow out of my socks or whatever. And if he can look at the cheat sheet, he knows how to do it. So it's pretty easy to do. Okay, I don't think there's anyone in the world who doesn't have a lost socks container in their laundry room because we're always losing socks, right? And we talked last week about getting kids to help around the house and how to help them be organized. Well, I think one of the best ways to help them feel organized and get into that mode of putting things away, give a 3 or 4-year-old a box of lost socks and have them sort those. And they have fun doing it, and it teaches them to be organized and what it is to help around the house. So I like to have that too. I also have a jar for loose change because everyone has it and I can't stand it rattling around in my dryer. So it's a good thing to have that. And when it's full, I take it to the bank. And right now, they're really out of coins. So it'd be a good time to drop off your coinage at the bank. All right. Of course, we'd love to have clean clothes baskets for each of the family members. So it's really nice if you have access to a floating shelf in your laundry room and everybody has their organized basket. You can take the laundry, fold it, sort it, put it in their basket. And then it's so easy to just bring it to their room or have them, do it themselves. So I've always loved that. These are so straightforward and so easy. I'm sure you're probably doing most of these anyway. Let's talk about the cabinets or what or other things that we can store in the laundry room. I feel like because the laundry room is kind of home base, it's a great place for a lot of things. So I happen to love these containers. And they're great because they're clear and I can see exactly what's in. They also have a flip top lid, which is great. Do you see how the lid doesn't come off, but it flips? So I have a bunch of these. This one happens to be all of my sunscreen. So I have sunscreen, aloe vera gel, anything that has to do with sunscreen is in this box. And then I also have one for batteries. And when I store my batteries, I like to take them all out of the package, the box itself, and I put them all in individual bags. So I have double A's in here, I have triple A's in here, I have C's and D's, whatever you need. But it's so easy to see what you have, and it's so much less bulky. So I just take some, label tape, put it on, and I stack probably 5 or 6 of these in each of my cupboards. So they're just different things that you can do. I also have one that's just for tea towels, one that's just for dish sponges. Anything that I have in my house that needs to be replenished as far as cleaning supplies, hand soaps, things like that, they all go in those containers and they are so easy to see. And then you can also see what your supply is and if you have to replenish. So it's really, really nice to have. You can use empty shoe boxes. You can use whatever container you have. But again, when we go and organize, sort by item and take those items together. One thing I would also encourage you to do, and this is in any space in your home where you're going through things that have expiration dates, make sure that at least once a year you're going through and you're getting rid of everything that's expired, because it just takes up unnecessary space, and it's just and it can be dangerous as well, especially when we're talking about medications or things that we're hoping that are going to work, like sunscreen, but it's 2 years old, right? So that's not going to do us any good at all. In my laundry room, I also like to have extra beach towels, extra linens. We talked about those linen bundles. Those are a great place to have extra linens. And any swimming gear. If your kids or your grandkids have swimming gear, that's a great place to put it. Some of my clients also like to have a gift wrapping station in their laundry room because they may have like a big place to be able to do that, a big table or an island. So one of the most basic things that I have done throughout the years is make this little basket. Now, I'm kind of a big ribboner. I like to, again, gift food, and so often it comes with ribbon. And so I just take this silly little mesh, I think this cost me $1 at the dollar store, stick the little ribbon through. Do you see how it's organized like this? And you just pull it through when you need it, and it keeps it super, super organized. So you can do this with skinny ribbon, fat ribbon, twine, jute, whatever you want. And this is really nice to have in your wrapping station. As far as the big, rolls of wrapping paper, you could certainly put those in a laundry basket that's kind of oval shaped where they can all fit. I always like to have mine kind of in my linen closet because they're tall and they're just easily accessible. Or you can also put up dowels or curtain rods, spring rods, and then put the wrapping roll on there, and on you go. And it's really easy. Just have maybe a piece of ribbon with your scissors dangling so that you can just cut it right there. The scissors never leave because they're attached to the wall. So there's another idea for you for your wrapping station. Okay, let's take a deep breath. That was the laundry room. There's a lot. And again, if you have things that work for you in your laundry room, or if I've missed something and you're wondering, how would I organize this that's in my laundry room? Or should I be placing this in my laundry room? I would love to have your questions and be able to address those for you. All right, so now we're going to move on to family rooms. Family rooms are a catch-all, aren't they? They are where everything happens. And so again, it's important to first determine what are the activities that I want to be happening in my family room? Are we going to be playing games? Is there going to be music? Is there going to be scrapbooking or crafts or watching TV, reading, gaming? There's so many things that could be happening there. So we need to, again, just organize accordingly. So what I would recommend to do when you declutter the family room, and this is going to be an all-day project, I promise you, is to go through every single cupboard and drawer and everything in there and just take it all out, lay it all on the floor. Again, ask yourself, what are the things that I could donate? Challenge yourself to donate 15 things. What are the things I need to throw away? And then with the rest of what's left, let's sort them into piles and go pile by pile and just decide, does it stay or does it go? Let's talk first of all about books, because there are so many of us who have so many books. And it may be that you have it in a different part of your house, but I'm going to address books now because they seem to be one of those things that we really, really want to hold on to, and rightly so. So when you do book organizing, one of the best things you can do is, again, to sort them by once you've gone through and decided, okay, I've read it, I loved it, moving on, thank you, you've been a gift, and give it to someone else. Decide which ones are the ones that you love and absolutely can't get rid of, and put those in sections. So you might have a section on gardening or fishing or, whatever those sections are, science or children's books. Section them out, determine how much room you need. And then one really easy way to kind of separate them so that they're in sections and it's very visible, there are two ways. You can either put some up and some on their side, which is nice. So you have one, gardening maybe here, and then you're fishing down here. You can do that, or you can also take something like just a wooden paint stick, because they go right in between the books, right? They might stick out just a little bit, and you can either put maybe a label that says gardening or fishing or whatever, or you can have a picture or something kind of clever. And it really does help separate, and not only separate, but it also helps to absorb any moisture that's in that room that's going to, affect the quality of the books or the pages. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. Okay, so organizing your books. I like to have mine, kind of intermingled with family photos or, things that are really important to me. And it just looks like a nice collection instead of having them all just in rows and rows and rows. Break up those rows a little bit in the piles so that they look a little bit more attractive. So that's books. Last week we talked about, recycling or upcycling boxes. And so I love this. And again, the same paper that I used for all of my upcycling, but I just took a cereal box. You can buy these. You don't have to make cereal boxes, but I have several cereal boxes. So I wrap mine like this. I cut them like this. And then I stick all of my piano music, or, it could be guitar music, it could be magazines, anything you want in these. But when you have them side by side by side, imagine a bunch of these on the shelf, everything that's in is tucked away, and all you see is just a nice, clean, organized system. Okay, so it's really good, especially if you have children who are, doing different musical instruments. They can have their very own. And again, a super inexpensive way to store it, but it doesn't look super decluttery, right? Because it always looks the same. And I would encourage you, especially in a family room where things are more visible, have your baskets, have your containers, all of the organizing things look the same, because you're gonna just feel more calm and there's just a better flow. Melinda, you're welcome. I'm glad that helped with your books. So that's that. That's pretty much books and magazines. Okay, so let's talk about things to throw away. Let's dive right into things that absolutely need to go. That is anything that's broken, dead house plants, empty soda or water bottles that we often find under the couch, food wrappers, of course, scratched CDs or DVDs, burned out candles, old magazines and newspapers, dead batteries, stained blankets and pillows, broken light bulbs. It's so obvious what needs to be thrown away, but really if you can just do one giant sift, it's going to feel so much better. And then listen, if you need to get a new blanket, or if you need, refreshing, curtains, or whatever you're going to do, make that space feel so good and like a new space, like you just want to be there all the time and feel so calm. Things that go elsewhere. Remember when we talked about those 4 piles, things that stay in this room, things that go in another room, things that get donated, and things that go in the garbage. Those are our 4 piles that we kind of attack each room with. Okay, so again, don't fuss about putting those things away right now. Just put it all in a basket. You can manage them later, but just get them out of that space. Okay, then you have some clean space to work with. Now, we talked about last week how sometimes we just don't want to donate things. Sometimes we have personal things, or we just think, oh, I've had this for too long and I can't get rid of it. Remember what to do in that case. You just take those things, put them in the garage in a dark bag. If you haven't touched them for 30 days, you get rid of them. Don't look in the bag. Okay, that's the easiest way to really get rid of things that are hard for you emotionally to get rid of. And so these things could be like books you've never read, or books you don't want to reread, DVDs or movies that you don't want anymore, CDs or albums that you don't listen to, games your family no longer plays, or decor or knickknacks you no longer like. So other people can love those. It just doesn't have to be you. All right, so let's talk about some of the most basic things in our family rooms. We're gonna just start again with the very obvious things like remote controls. Now, if you have several remote controls like we do, I'm always kind of looking, or they can get stuck in the couch or whatever. So a great way to organize those is to just buy one of those little desk caddies. The ones that have like 4 holes for scissors and pencils and pens. Buy one of those and have one for each of your remotes. Just super simple. It can be inside a cabinet. It can be Velcroed somewhere inside a cabinet so it doesn't leave, and everything just has a home, okay? And you can even label that. Cords. I love this idea for cords because we have so many cords, right? We have so many chargers and cords for the TV and the gaming devices and all of that. I mean, there are so many. So I love this where you just take like an empty pint jar. Do you see how I've labeled it in the inside? I put my little label in there, and then I put my thing in there. And then if you have a basket or a container, some kind of caddy, and you have a number of these in here, look how much easier it is to access that. It's all nice and tidy instead of in a drawer just rumpled up, okay? And this is super simple to do. Again, stick it in a box with all the other cords in their own little individual glass jar, and then you can access those very, very quickly. Of course, controllers and games, those are another thing that would go really well just in their own containers so that those are easily accessed when the gaming happens. And when my children were little, I always wanted, or I always encouraged, doesn't mean it happened, that you take one thing out at a time. When you're done, you put it where it belongs and get something else out. But you have to set them up for success. And if you have places for them to put things, they're much more likely to use those spaces than just kind of throwing them on the console or leaving them on the floor. All right, we talked about extra batteries and writing utensils. Again, I like to have my batteries just in a box with all different varieties. Anything that uses a battery, I even like to have backups for my doorbell, or anything that's a strange battery, I like to have a backup for just in case. Writing utensils, if you're playing games, that's a good thing to have there. Instruction manuals. So remember, we have this little grab and go binder I showed you. This could be another great way to store all of your instruction manuals. Just get an empty binder with sleeves and put all of the instruction manuals in there in that binder, so you don't have to keep looking for them. You can just flip through and on you go. This is another great way to actually organize your warranties and instructions as well. Super simple and keeping them nice and clean and tidy. Acid-free storage boxes for pictures. How many times do we develop pictures and then we just have every intention to scrapbook them or whatever we're going to do? It's a nice idea just to have a place to throw them all in. And then when they're full, then you know that it's time to organize and to do something with those photos. We talked about magazines. We talked about music or different kinds of, that size of item that can be put in some of those magazine holders. Now, board games and drawers for those. Board games can be so organized so well, and I've seen some great solutions. But again, if I can encourage you to divide them or sort them by who uses those games. So if these are preschool games, or if these are family games, or if these are, card games or puzzles, just sort them out and then when you look at your pile, you determine how much room you need, and then you'll know exactly what kind of container or organizer you need to make that happen. And so it can look very, very clean. Again, we talked about using maybe empty oatmeal containers for kids' toys, small things, right? That they can just decorate the outside of an oatmeal box or any other box for that matter. And it's kind of their own little personal thing that they're proud of. And then they can put in their logos or their Legos, their doll clothes, whatever. And having the same type of organizing container or solution close together in kind of a system looks really nice. And you can decorate it any way you want. All right. The last thing I like to have in my family room is a stash of cozy blankets and pillows. So it doesn't mean that it has to be out on your couches all the time, but somewhere where everyone knows that that's where they can access them, whether it's a basket on the floor or whether it's a special shelf somewhere in your closet. It's nice to be able to have those clean and tidy as well. And then, of course, the last thing would be to have maybe a big basket or something that looks really pretty when it's empty for things that need to be cleaned up at the end of the day. So again, if you have a young family or people have come over and you just want to toss things in so that they can be organized and out of sight, out of mind really quick, have a nice big basket that you can do that with so that you're not breaking your back picking up everyone one by one. So I guess, always having a backup solution, of course, for children as well so that they can be part of the cleanup process is a great idea. Okay, friends, I know this was kind of a whirlwind, but I promised I would do it in 40 minutes. We are just about there. So I hope that you've taken away some good ideas as far as organizing your family rooms, your offices, and your laundry rooms. And if you have some tips that you want to share, please feel free to leave it in the show notes below. And we're going to be able to learn from you and what's working in your home. Next week, we're going to be talking about organizing your kitchen and pantry. So hold on, it's going to be great. And then the week after that, we're going to finish up by organizing the garage and the car. So I've got some great tips for you there as well. So we're dedicating, again, 2 more weeks. In fact, it'll go through the first week in August because there is so much to organize in our homes and in our spaces. So glad that you joined me today. I hope that you'll take these tips and you'll implement them and that you'll have a super productive Saturday. And we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye, friends.